Hello, welcome to lesson 14 of Learn Biblical Hebrew. Today we're going to look at the Great Commandment. Here it is, the Great Commandment, Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 5. Ve'ahavta et Yahweh Elohecha b'kol levavecha u'b'kol nafshka u'b'kol ma'odka. This follows on from Deuteronomy 6:4, of course, which we did in lesson 8. Hear, O Israel, the Shema, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And then this is the first commandment that's given straight after that. This command is quoted by Jesus when he was asked what's the greatest commandment in the law, and we read about that in Matthew, Mark and Luke. Here's where I've written a letter-by-letter translation. Because I printed this in relatively small letters, I've also done it landscape to give me more room. I had to squeeze some things above, so this follows along down to here, and then B'kol levavka I'll put up here, and then I go down again here, B'kol nafshka, and then back up here, B'kol ma'odka. Okay, so here's the word-by-word translation. And you love Yahweh your God. So the root of this word is ahav, love. There's another key word that we're learning here. So it starts with the word meaning and then attached to the end is ta. That's a perfect second masculine singular. So we find that on page 2 of this sheet. Here, second masculine singular. Perfect. So you love. And the ending indicates that it's imperfect. It's a perfect, but here's a little trick. The wa at the beginning has converted it to imperfect. Even though the ending shows that it's a perfect form, it's been converted to imperfect. So that's mentioned on the top of page 2. Where did I see that? Somewhere up here, that's what my note says. So I'll leave it to you for homework to find it. I just can't spot it there immediately. But it's worth having a good study of that sheet anyway, because you get all the basic grammar that you need there. So that's called war conversive. By the way, war is the name of the letter, and I'm writing it and pronouncing it W-A-W, but as I said, in modern Hebrew being filtered through German, actually, which has no W, it's pronounced as Vav. So in ancient Hebrew it was Waw, W-A-W, but in modern Hebrew they call it Vav. So the grammatical books call it war conversive, because it converts perfect to imperfect and imperfect to perfect. So without the war in front of it, it means you shall love, or you will love. Sorry, I got that the wrong way around again. Let me get it right. Without the vav, it means perfect. You have loved, or you loved. But with the vav in front of it, it's converted into imperfect. So then it would be translated as you love, or you will love an action not completed, or in this case a command. So that's a form of the command using the imperfect, and the versions like the King James Version translated it more or less literally, you shall love. So that's why command forms in the King James Bible come out as you shall do this and you shall do that. Not a normal way of saying a command in English, but it's because they've just followed the grammatical form of the Hebrew. So coming along here, Elohecha, we met Elohim, meaning God, but here the M is dropped off and it's replaced by this Cha, which means your. So that comes from page 4 of our sheet. Page 4, which is the back page, found it this time. Yes, second masculine singular, you or your. And we see the same ending here. This means your heart, and this means your soul, and this means your strength. So we met Nepesh in our last lesson, and we met it with the ending E, which was first person singular my soul, and here we meet it with the second person singular, your soul. So that's interesting, this is singular, so Israel is being addressed in the singular here, saying, you shall love the Lord your God. Now, we met before in the base meaning of in, but here it has another meaning, which is also common for which in this case is talking about the instrument or the thing that you do it with. So we translate with kol, all your heart, levav meaning heart, and the cha at the end meaning your. So saying with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. So that's why in the traditional versions we read, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. But it's important to realize that this verse isn't teaching us about the constitution of a person. It's not written like that to teach us that there are three parts to a person, heart, soul, and strength. Rather, the three things stand together for completeness. It's meaning the whole person. We also sometimes put three things together to indicate completeness. For example, we say hook, line, and sinker. He fell for it, hook, line, and sinker, meaning completely. And there are other examples. I've just noted down a couple from the New Testament. In Mark chapter 6 verse 4, in a literal English version, it says, prophets are not without honour except in their hometown, among their own kin, and in their own house. So again, there are three things: hometown, kin, and house. But if the translator translates word for word, you can miss the more important thing, which in this case, in the case of Mark 6:4, is the tone of rueful irony in Jesus' statement, which we could perhaps get like this: a prophet is respected everywhere except at home. So there I've translated the three things, hometown, kin, and house, by one word, home, in an attempt to get the tone in suitable English. Well, it's an attempt, so you can judge how well I may or may not have succeeded, but my point is that when you do a literal translation, you can lose the tone, and in your target language it can sound like a bit of just kind of a verbal or a waffle. But it's another example. The reason I quoted it is that it's another example of putting three things together to indicate kind of the completeness or entirety. Another example from the New Testament is from Mark 8:31. the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and teachers of the law. Again, this threesome, elders, chief priests, and teachers of the law, represents the whole of the leadership. And again, the key point risks being lost in the detail. The force of the original is perhaps better seen if we translate like this: the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the entire leadership of the nation. So when we hear it like that, we realize, wow, that's quite a remarkable thing. Jesus was rejected by the entire leadership of the nation. It's remarkable that the people groomed by God for so long to be his people reacted like that. But anyway, that's an aside, but it's building up to our main point here of considering how we're going to translate this. So this is not telling us that we have to find what our heart is and then love God with that, and to figure out what our soul is and then to love God with that, and then our strength and love God with that. But what this is saying is it's using the three things to indicate the totality of our being. We are to love God with the totality of our being, and there's perhaps a good translation, maybe better than this, what I've written down here, love God with all you've got. That's an attempt to just be snappy about it, which does get the point too. I think love God with all you've got, or yeah, we could say love God with the totality of your being. So that's the important point, which when we translate and when we study this verse, that's the important point that we must not miss. We mustn't get lost wandering through the forest of detail, and we must remember what the main point that it's making. And the main point that it's making is that we have to love God with all we've got.